Okay, so welcome back. Now we're going to talk about transformations with regard to logarithmic functions. So the first thing we're going to talk about is horizontal shifts. Okay, so everything I'm going to tell you is going to be very similar, if not pretty much the same as what I talked about when I talked about transformations with respect to exponential functions. Okay, so with regard to horizontal shifts, it's the same thing. We're adding or subtracting a constant inside the argument, inside the function, right? So in here we're inside the log function. So we're affecting x. Remember, this affects x. So we're going to be moving left and right based on what we're doing with x. Are we subtracting or if we're adding some constant? So the thing is, again, it's different than what you would think it would be, right? Just like with the exponential. So if you're inside the function and you're subtracting, right? If you're subtracting a constant, you're going to shift the graph of the parent function to the right. So if you're subtracting, you're moving to the right. If you're adding some constant inside the function, so x plus c, then you're going to be shifting c units to the left. Okay, so if you're adding, you're shifting to the left. Okay, so that means, again, you're affecting the x coordinates, right? So if you're adding a constant c, you're going to add a constant c to each one of these coordinates. Okay? And so, what is that going to do? Well, here you have if you're adding constant c, then you've got to figure out what x is to get the same value. And so what happens is you're going to be moving to the left. Again, remember, here x is 1, right? So when x is 1, y is 0. The function is 0. So if I add constant c, well, I'm going to have to have a negative value here to offset that, to make it back to 1. Okay? So that's going to, in effect, move the graph to the left. And of course, if I'm subtracting, then I'm going to end up moving the graph, in effect, to the right. Now, this also affects what? It doesn't affect the range, okay? Because the range is still going to be all real numbers, whether you move it this way or this way, okay? But what is affected is the domain. So the domain is going to be affected because if I move to the left, it's going to change my domain. Because now, instead of starting at 0, now I'm going to start somewhere over here, okay? In fact, it's going to be however many c units that I move over this way, okay? And of course, if it's a shift to the right, then it's also going to affect my domain going this way, okay? And that is horizontal shifts. Oh, and by the way, the vertical asymptote here also changes, right? So it has to also shift the same number of units either left or right, okay? And that's it.